I remember when I was at university and we were always told, we're here to teach you to think, not what to think.
We're training the next generation of critical thinkers to know that there is no hierarchy over a scientific opinion.
In order to achieve career success, how important is your mindset compared with just what you study and your qualifications?
Mindset tells you more than knowledge. It tells you about your insight. And that is so crucial. Self-awareness, that's such a key tool of knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're not so good at as well. I think that's really, really important. So the transition is your opportunity to learn as much as you possibly can. You just never know how much that learning will help in the future. So I would say it's about nurturing your mind, just being in a mode where you tell yourself that wherever I am, I can get to the next step. And it's just about that, just the next step.
Yeah. Good morning and welcome to the latest episode of Education Keeping It Real, the podcast on global education and careers brought to you by Youth United Council of India. I'm Lottie Hill, your Director of International Partnerships, and I'm delighted to be joined today by a very inspiring guest. I'm at the University of Chichester, which is on the south coast of the United Kingdom, and I am joined by Dr. Moitree Banerjee. Welcome.
Thank you.
Just to give you a bit of background information, Moitree is from Kolkata, India. She came to the UK as an international student in 2009. Following a master's degree, Moitree Banerjee graduated with a PhD from the University of Sussex in 2016. And she is now a reader in clinical psychology and head of the School of Law, Business and Psychology at the University of Chichester. So thank you so much for joining us. I know this is going to be a fascinating conversation, both a little bit about your background and how you came to the UK and your journey as an international student, and also your rise to this position within academia. So I'm sure a lot of our viewers will be interested in how you reached this and some views on how you think others can do the same. So I'm going to start by asking a question about your decision to study internationally. So when you were a university student, presumably you were an undergraduate student in India, and you then decided to go abroad for your master's degree. So what was your motivation for studying abroad, and what did you believe that it could give you that perhaps further studies in India could not?
Okay, that's a very interesting question, and it takes me back to a long time, but I think it's such a key decision. You always remember what you were thinking in the moment. So I love psychology. I've always been very interested in the science of psychology, but absolutely fascinated by the human mind. And as I studied psychology, I realized how universal the human mind truly is. I've always had a fascination for mental health. And when you start studying psychology, you realize that actually we all are so similar. We all struggle, we all heal, and we all grow and aspire. So I was really interested in understanding the same subject from a completely different perspective, and perhaps in a way marrying the contemplative traditions that I was very familiar with the Western psychological science. What really fascinated me is the research ecosystem in the UK. And it's so profound. From the very first instance, it starts training you to ask the questions of why and keep asking those questions. It's not just about what happens in the human mind, it's why does it happen, how does it happen? And once you know that, then you can start thinking about changes. But it's so important to ask those questions in the right way, knowing where, what are my biases, and I don't want that to be a part of my research, or actually I do want it to be a part of my research. And that training is incredible in the UK. I would say now, reflecting back, had I studied in any other country, I would not have had the love for research that I currently have. I would also perhaps not have the skills that I know now to ask those questions. I think that was really fascinating for me. And I think, where the science is in this country at the moment, we are at the cusp of making, new additions to the science, which are absolutely world leading. And that's why I think if you're interested in your subject, if you have a quest for knowledge, if you're curious, just come to the UK. It's the best place to do your higher education.
Okay, that sounds like there's a really interesting and exciting, let's say, philosophy about, how the research is conducted, and which is slightly different from what you might expect in other countries.
Absolutely. I still remember my first assignment. I had to write a criticism of some of Freud's theories. And I just couldn't believe, how can I criticize Freud, who is so well established? And that was such a jump I felt for my first assignment. To now at the University of Chichester, I teach some of our third-year students on mindfulness-based interventions. And one of their assignments is that they have to write a criticism of a paper. And, you know, these are third-year students, and they go, yeah, criticism of a paper is not that much of a big deal, till they open the paper and they see I'm the author of the article. So they have to write a criticism of a paper that is written by me, and I'm going to be grading them on it. And I think that's the beauty of, you know, Chichester and the UK. We are training the next generation of critical thinkers to know that there is no hierarchy over a scientific opinion. If you have a scientific opinion, that's important, and that must be heard.
Yeah, I remember when I was at university, and we were always told, we're here to teach you to think, not what to think. So I think that kind of is the way things are still. But that's great. Going on from there, you've gone from an international student to a fairly high-flying senior academic and researcher in the span of 10 years. What would you say has been the secret to your success over such a short period of time?
That's really big words you're saying there. I don't think I reflect on the journey as much, and which is why I think I'm enjoying this conversation so much, because
I think you're being modest, because it's
but I think for me, I would say the first thing would be a genuine quest of knowledge, genuine curiosity. I've always been a very nosy person, and I've really been very curious, and I think that almost like if you have a mind, you just keep your doors and windows open and let the sunshine come in, and then see the magic that happens from that. So I would say definitely be very curious and be adaptable to change. Don't shy away from situations if they keep changing. Embrace them and see what that brings. For me, one of the other things has been that I've always really been very observant. So I like to notice qualities in my peers or my seniors or younger colleagues, qualities that I admire. And I love to cultivate those qualities in me. If there's something that I really like, you know, this person is leading amazingly well. This person is a compassionate leader. I will try and understand how are they doing it and cultivate those qualities in me. And I think that's how you just keep learning in your role. I would also have to say I have been extremely grateful for the mentors I've had along the way. I think international students across the world, when there are always many voices that will tell you the things you're not good at. And often that voice is your own. But there are some affirming voices around you as well that believe in the qualities in you, that see those qualities in you even before you've become wise enough to notice them. And for me, it's been those mentors who have said to me, you're very good at this. And I've held on to that as if it was the biggest medal. And then I think you just cultivate those qualities in you. I think UK is a place where you are here, where you will be is fully on what is the value you're adding, what's your knowledge, how are all of your other professional qualities, and that's what helps you progress. There is no glass ceilings. I mean, there might be a few glass ceilings along your way, but in every country you have those glass ceilings, and it's about fostering the qualities in you that you can break those glass ceilings. And I will have to say a dash of luck. 100%. You have to be at the right places at the right time. But also, I think it only happens when you're so open to opportunities that you never are saying no. I remember, if I go back to my PhD days, the number of jobs I did whilst I was doing my PhD, whether it's research focused, whether it's teaching focused, I was literally building up my CV constantly and often stretching myself far too much. But then it all pays out, because you just get to see that through every job experience, you gain so much knowledge, so many different skills that you might be using 5 years down the line. So I think that as well.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Can I just pick up on the idea of mentorship?
Yes.
Because sometimes that can sound quite formal, can't it? And I think you don't need to necessarily have a formal mentor. I think you can look for those in, there's many different people in your circle, I'm sure, who can give you that advice and encouragement and help you to become the best version of yourself. What would you say about mentorship as well?
So I would say, I think with mentorship, it's something that is so personal. You've got to be authentic. So I think some of my colleagues will have a heart attack if I said I am actually a very introverted, shy person. I don't come across as one. But for me, if anybody asked me during my the days that I was doing studies that go and network, I would just get so scared because that's not really my authentic self. But I'm great at, for example, one-to-one conversations when I've spoken with my lecturers at my university, and now other people who work as leaders, whether in this university or different universities. So there are two parts of mentorship. One is where you're actively pursuing that. And it doesn't have to be somebody who has the role of a mentor with you. You can just, if someone has really had such an impact in your life that you've learned from them. I think for me now reflecting, if I've learned something from somebody, I just put them at a pedestal. I've always done that. And so I've always kept in touch with them. So whether it be people in the UK or people back in India, if somebody's taught me something, I've always kept in touch. And that's why it's much easier to go back and say, I'm a bit confused. What do you think would be the right advice? And they might not be giving you advice per se, but they might say something that would, that becomes advice for you. So it doesn't have to be a formalized role. It can be somebody you talk to once a year or once 5 years. But it's just, I feel it's so reassuring to know along my journey, there have been times where I've had two paths in front of me and I've had to make a choice. You feel stronger about making the choice when you know you've got somebody who you can just go and quickly check. And that's so important.
And I think there are a lot of people who you meet along your journey who are maybe further along than you, who are very happy to give informal advice and, to be somebody that is approachable. So I think you need to, I think everybody would benefit from having somebody in their corner. So look out for those individuals who kind of make themselves more available in that way. I think it's really useful.
And in academia is such a small world. You will find so many people who've walked similar paths that you're walking now. So for example, for me, the motivation of this podcast is that, there are students in India who are thinking about coming to the UK. I have been there and I have had, that nervousness of, will I remember to keep my passport safe when I'm, on the plane to the UK? All of those things, you just know somebody else has done that path, and it's reassuring to know that. So I feel like, my mentors have been, and as I am, always very happy to connect with international students, really understanding their journey, helping them out. Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, great. Thank you. So I want to ask a question which is around mindset. So I think when a lot of students who are thinking about studying abroad, even if they're not studying abroad, at the end of your studies, you want to know what your outcomes are going to be. So in order to achieve career success, how important is your mindset compared with just what you study and your qualifications?
You're speaking to a psychologist. So I would say it's very, very important. I think mindset is everything. Mindset also impacts the academic outcomes that you will get. But also, I feel your mindset is really a way. So your academic outcomes are external validation. You're getting it from an external person. Mindset determines your internal outcomes, your internal validation. If you feel like you've come a long way, then hold on to that feeling. But also, it doesn't matter where we start our journey. What matters is where we go and where, the rooms that we then get into. I think that's so much important. So adaptability is the key. And I would really, really emphasize on that for especially our international students, because there are lots of synergies of higher education in India and in the UK, and that's why I think it goes so well. But there are nuances as well, and it's so important to adapt to those, to observe those nuances, adapt to those. And the other aspect of that is then you gain the insight and that's something that's really helped me now when I go back, that's helped my confidence, is I was able to adapt to the Indian higher education system, and I was able to adapt to the UK higher education system. And that teaches you something. It teaches a quality within you. That's what makes you feel that, actually, I don't have to think about the boundaries because I'm smashing them along the way. And that's so powerful. The academic outcomes tell you how much you know, and that's really important. Mindset tells you more than knowledge. It tells you about your insight. And that is so crucial self-awareness, that's such a key tool of knowing what you're good at and knowing what you're not so good at as well. I think that's really, really important. So absolutely, growth mindset. There is no age, there's no limit of when you can come into higher education or when you can make these big, life decisions. You don't have to be an 18-year-old when you're making these decisions. You can make these decisions in your 30s. And I think universities in the UK is about that. It's about learning for your entire life.
Yeah, lifelong learning.
Yes,
they like to say. But yeah, it's absolutely true, isn't it? There's no defined path for any of us in life. It's, what you achieve and what you do as a young person does not necessarily affect your growth through your life or the trajectory of your career.
Absolutely. I think one of the things here is that my journey has not also been completely in a straight line. So there were, years in the UK after I did my master's where I used to work in a bank, for example, and that was my phase of, confusion and, really trying to understand what is the pathway that I want to choose myself. I was lucky I got to do the PhD later on, but by that time it was much more of an informed choice of, psychology is my first love. I want to go back to that. But what I would like the youth to know is that if you are in a place that you feel like is a transition, that transition period does not define you. The transition is your opportunity to learn as much as you possibly can. You just never know how much that learning will help in the future. So I would say it's about nurturing your mind, just being in a mode where you tell yourself that wherever I am, I can get to the next step. And it's just about that, just the next step.
Yeah, that self-belief is so important.
Exactly, yes.
I wanted to kind of delve a bit deeper into your research area now. Obviously, we've said that as a broad term, psychology, but one of your specialist areas is psychosocial well-being. I'm sure you'll tell us a bit more about that. But as I understand it, it relates to the interaction between a person's thoughts, their emotions, behavior, and their social environment. And I think this is a really interesting concept when we talk about students, particularly international students who are out of their normal comfort zone,
yes,
and how that can affect them. And also, then I wanted to kind of take that a bit further and think about what advice you might have as a graduate as well. And this could be any student anywhere, a graduate who is ambitious and looking to get on the career ladder, but finding it difficult to get that first break. And those circumstances and that social environment might also be very challenging and therefore impact on how you operate and function going forward. So I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on that from your research.
Yes. So I think now more than ever, it's such an important topic on your mental health and well-being, not just ill-being, because I think we focus quite a bit on ill-being of people who are not so well.
Yeah.
But my research is more focused on well-being and finding simple hacks, if you like, to feel mentally well and better than you were feeling. A lot of my research, it's so interesting because your first question was about what were you thinking when you were coming here? What were the motivations? And I was always interested in Eastern and Western psychology and the merge of the two. And unsurprisingly, my whole research focused heavily on mindfulness. And at that time, I was thinking that I'm swaying from one thing to the other, but actually, there's so much instinct in the choices you make, and it's become mindfulness for me is the lifelong path. It informs my research, teaching, as well as leadership. I see the human mind as this field that has a lot of soil and loads of different types of seeds. There's the seeds of confidence. There's the seeds of belief in yourself. Yeah. There's also the seeds of fear. There's also the seeds of avoidance. And it's up to us which seed we decide to water and which then grows. And I would say that to every student who is now feeling, are at a transition, like I said, transition period where they're not sure about where the path will take them, is to water the seeds that will take them where they want to be. And that sense of agency is really important, as we see in mindfulness research. The agency, the more sense of agency you have over your mind, over your actions, the better you will feel. And so the more agency you will have as a result of that. So if you feel like things are not working out around you, don't let yourself feel like you are completely helpless in the situation. That helplessness will trigger ill-being, and that will not help you get out of that. But the thing that helps you get out of that cycle is to nurture the right seeds to be in a learning environment. I would also say there are other aspects that we've got. So we tend to, as human beings, either live in the past or live in the future. I did that and it didn't work out well, or I wanted to go there and I don't think I can go there. There's so much value in the present moment, because this is the only moment we can do something about. And this is the only moment that's here. No other moments are here at this stage. So I think living in the present, nurturing your qualities, and also there is a lot of judgment that comes from a false social comparison model that we often create amongst ourselves, especially when we are down. We tend to compare ourselves. Social comparison then goes up, and that really impacts our well-being and hence what we can achieve. And the other thing I would say, as human beings, we are wired for human connection. So if you're feeling stuck, hold on to the human connection that you feel is watering your right seeds. So friends, family that you feel are believing in you, that who are encouraging you, hold on to them. They're just so important to be around you and to keep them around you.
So there's lots of sort of advice there. So just to kind of put that back then into small steps, stay in the present as much as possible.
Yes.
Take actions even when you think there's nothing, to kind of avoid feeling there's nothing you can do or you're stuck in a situation. Look around you at what you can do, not at what's holding you back.
Yes.
Is that right? Remember all those people around you who are your champions, even if you don't think about them as much.
Yeah.
So there's lots of things that you can do.
Yeah.
When it comes to those students who are particularly between, maybe graduation and getting to where they want to be, have you got any specific advice for those people in that situation?
I would say it's so important to be open to experiences that you're in that position. So like, for example, I wasn't hoping to work in a bank, but there was this opportunity and I thought I'll go for it. The training I got during that, those 2 years, such gems for me. I use it in my current job. But if you would have asked me as a student, do you think an experience in a bank will help you in an academic leadership position? I would have said no. Yeah. But you just, we are so interconnected, all of the industry. So be open to all of those experiences. And I think one of the things I always say is treat your mind as you would treat your best friend. That's so important. Just, don't be the voice that tells you, oh, you're worthless and you're not doing this and this didn't go. Don't be that person. Just treat your mind as you would treat your own best friend.
That's fantastic advice. I've never heard it put in that sense before, but that's really good.
I think that's so important, and we don't do it, and I'm guilty as well. I don't think I do it all the time, but we need that. We really need it.
Yeah, no, that's great. Just to add to what you were saying about treat every experience as, for what it can give you and how you can grow from it. I remember being in a meeting with an HR director from IBM, the computer firm, and she was saying that she actually loves getting applications from graduates who've had a part-time job at somewhere like McDonald's. Now, the students who are thinking, I just need to get some extra money, so I'm going to take on this part-time job, they might not see the benefit in that. But she said, these people who have done that, as opposed to people who haven't bothered to take on any work, actually, they've got amazing customer skills. Because they've got amazing conflict resolution skills. And, all of those things that they don't necessarily see, from what they might consider to be a small part-time job and not of great value. Actually, a future employer might think, you've developed this, and this, and that's,
and it's having that confidence of presenting that as well. You can say that I was dealing with a few customers, or you can say I was doing stakeholder management, because actually customers are the biggest stakeholders. So it's all of those aspects of knowing every thing that we are doing. It's really helping us foster, and it is a progress. It's just about moving forward, not moving backwards.
I love that. So also thinking about the psychology, when we're talking about Indian students or other international students who might be looking to go abroad, what do you think are the additional challenges that they face in an academic environment, and what would your advice be to overcome that?
So I think one of the key aspects are the geopolitical aspects that are always on our minds. So we always think about that, and always impacts our decision making. But it's there were geopolitical aspects even when I was coming here. These are some things that always stay across the board. So I think as a world, we are becoming more and more united, and we've become so much more united. It's really knowing those qualities are there around you, and amongst people who are surrounding you. I would say specifically to psychology, it is such a key aspect of knowing the jump that you will face. So be aware that it's, when you're in India and you have done your education there, I have a lot of respect from all the things I learned in India. It's a very different way of learning. I think by the end of my BSc, name any theory and I knew it completely. So it was there. But the jump is in critical thinking and critical awareness, and being able to demonstrate that you know that some things around you, they are maybe very popular theories, but you would have to be the person who says, I actually don't agree with that. So it's that jump that is something to be aware of. I would say the food is different. So be prepared for that. When I came here, it was much more different. We didn't have so many Indian grocery shops or supermarkets where you would get you would be able to buy your dal and your rice, and but you do get that now. But it's still, I think, especially for people in India, I think food is an emotion for us. So I think that part. But also you just get such a bond with people around you, because there are so many people who would go through the same experiences as you would. I remember in my master's, I had two friends who were from Greece, and we are still in touch on social media, and we had the same struggle with food. And it's that aspect of, you just start realizing how similar we truly are. And that is so important as a society for all of us, because we just get to walk a mile in another person's shoes, and it only unites humankind. And that is so much more needed. And I have so much hope for our next generation. I feel our next generation of students, they are much more aware. They are so conscious about the world, which, it's not something that we were when we were their age. And there is so much power in their thoughts, in the way they are seeing the world. It's, just foster that. They'll be fine. They will enjoy it. And, a big part of university life is that you also get your future bridesmaids, your, future best friends from, my children's friends are my uni friends' children. So it's, you do grow your community, and it's quite fulfilling.
Yeah, a great experience.
Yes.
Thinking about the universities themselves, obviously all of the universities, and we're not just talking about the UK now, but wherever a student might decide to study, universities do provide a lot of support particularly for international students. They understand the cultural differences and the learning differences, and there's a whole range of things they can help with. Is there a particular approach at Chichester, the University of Chichester, that you'd like to talk about that really will support an international student coming here?
Yes. So I think for me, Chichester is a place I would call my home now. It's this university is very community focused, and I have seen it when we are with our students. You often get to your second or third year at university, and then you realize, I don't really know anybody here, or I know just this tiny group of people. But in Chichester, you'll be known. And I think that aspect of, it's a very relational university. It really believes in the students that we have. And an example of that is that our students become lifetime members of our careers team. So they might have done a degree here for a year. They might be anywhere in the world, but 5 years down the line, they're applying for a managerial position. They can get a CV check, they can get a mock interview through our careers team. And I think that's such a powerful thing. It shows the investment of the university, not just for the students that are here, but for the talent. And that's really key. I've spoken so much about mentorship, but I think Chichester is such a place of mentorship, because I am, for example, in touch with my students from many years back. And when they have a new career progression, or sometimes a new addition in their life, like they've, a student had a baby, they would message and let you know that this is what's happening. And we meet with them, much later in their lives as well. When we have conferences, we always invite our alumni to that. So there is a lifelong journey, I think, when they come to Chichester. I don't think there would be any feelings of alienation or feeling lost in the crowd. I think every student, I often say that, we get to know so much about them. Sometimes a bit too much. I feel like I don't need to know all the boyfriend problems and things like that. But
so it's like being with your family, really.
It is truly like being with your family. And I think it's such an important thing for students from India as well, because when you come from India, you're so used to so many people around you, and it can sometimes feel isolating. But in Chichester, that's, the warmth is there. You have those people around you, but also there are loads of support for academic skills as well.
Yeah.
So there are colleagues that run our academic skills teams. And we often, as lecturers, we would encourage our students to, before they submit the assignment to us, they submit the assignment to them and they review it. They wouldn't review the content, but the writing of the English and how are they structuring the paragraphs. And I still remember there was a student I taught in her first year and her second year. This was many years back, and she was always getting really good marks, high 60s. In her third year, she just started getting distinctions, and she was my academic advisor, and I spoke with her and said, "What have you changed?" And she said, "I now submit all of my assignments to our academic skills team and then submit it here." So there's that formative feedback opportunity is really quite profound. And also it's sunny today. It's one of the sunniest campuses as well. So I think, what's not to like?
I know, you can see out of the window here. It's a beautiful sunny day, so it's not always raining in the UK.
Yeah, especially now. I think cherry blossoms in full blossom. It's so beautiful, vibrant.
Yeah, I can attest to the fact this is a beautiful university.
I feel when my family have visited and I've taken them to so Chichester University has been around in some form or the other since 1839. And the heritage of education is so important for all of us here. And I remember my family had visited, and I had taken them to one of our, outside this building that we are in, and they said it feels like I'm in Harry Potter because the buildings are, that old. You can see the heritage when you come here. And the other thing I would say is we really push our students to have engagement with businesses as well. So employability is not an afterthought. From the day one, when we're working with the students, we will start talking to them about, so what's next? What's next? And I have this reputation of being like a mummy to them, but they all call me the tough mummy because I will ask those questions of, okay, you're doing these studies, but where do you want to go? And what are you doing today to get there? And we are the only university in West Sussex, so very connected with our local businesses. Many of our students do placements whilst they are here with the local businesses. And just last week, I found out one of the students who was doing a placement has now got a job in that same organization.
Oh, that's great.
So there's lots of different techniques of putting your foot in the door.
Yeah, it sounds like the students get a lot of support here.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Moitree, thank you so much for everything that you shared with us today, both from your own journey coming from India as an international student through your career, not just your studies, but the mindset and how you've really kind of shaped that. And I think that's so interesting for young people to hear, you've been able to come here, make a really successful career, and it may not have been, a straight line or exactly how you envisaged it might be, but, you've taken all those opportunities and, you've obviously cultivated your own, excellent mindset for this. So yeah, I really hope that everyone who's watching will take some of these nuggets of gold really, and think about how they can implement that in their own positions and their own career planning. So thank you, Moitree.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.